Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News, but also now covering Love is Blind. I asked my audience to tell me what I should be covering out there. Some seasons of Love is Blind are more interesting than others. Generally, I like to wait to see if the tea is worth it. I like to see, all right, is this season worth it? Word of mouth says that it gets pretty disastrous out there. I don't know. Does it? Is this going to be a great season? I've only watched episodes 1 through 3, so I'm going to give you guys my thoughts from episode 1 to 3. Normally, when I do my Bachelor recaps, I'll take notes, read them back, no edits, no jump cuts, just me and you guys. With this, it's going to be a little bit more from the, 50,000 feet up look at what's going on. Again, just from episodes 1 through 3. So I've got a couple photos and graphics we can look at here, but I've got my seating chart, as it were, which I'll be sharing. This is my first time watching Love is Blind after having a baby. So if you randomly check out my channel, I've got a now almost 6-month-old. He's actually crying in the other room. He's well taken care of, though. I'll tell you that. Love is not blind when you have a baby. You just stare at that baby all day long. The cutest little cheeks. They just got collagen. We have the older you get, you're like, how come the baby's skin bounces back and mine doesn't? It's called youthful energy and stem cells. All right, so we have everyone who's a part of the show, but here's the challenge. There's really 4 or 5 couples that we're gonna kind of focus on from here. Just looking at the chart right now, as from the women, Hannah's going to be a big deal. Brittany, they're kind of competing, and then also Taylor's going to get a lot of screen time here, and some others, Brittany, Marissa. Did I say Brittany? Yeah, I said Brittany. And then from the men, we've got Garrett, good looking kind of, but also smarts, quantum physicist. Bowden, Ukraine, good storyline, fighting in the war. Leo is probably, from what I've seen in the first 3 episodes, the most talked about, memed about. Art dealer, although when you look into it, I guess he sells, glass bongs? Is that what he sells? The website is... kind of looks like I designed it in 7th grade computer 101. But either way, that's what he does. He's inherited a good amount of money. Online, they say he's worth $6 million, but then some say 600,000. The way he talks, you would think he's a billionaire, though. And I hate to say it with inflation, but it's not like 6 million is that. No, I would love to have 6 million. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so we've got Nick D. He's the former kicker. Didn't play in the NFL, but just saying he played college sports starts to give the other side a little bit of knowledge about themselves. What's really interesting about Love is Blind, I've talked about this ad nauseum in past episodes, is that the sort of experiment of Love is Blind continuously proves that love isn't blind. I mean, here we have a beautiful actress and a boy band member. Clearly, love wasn't blind to them. Although she did kind of go for a guy that was a little bit on the shorter side. But that's what you do on your second marriage, right? Your first marriage, you want the guy who's 6'4". Your second marriage is like, give me the 5'6" king, and let's hope that he doesn't cheat on me at a Buffalo Wild Wings with a younger waitress. Anyhow, so the experiment continuously is like people saying, well, what did in past seasons we had Shake, remember him? He's like, if I wanted to lift you above my head, could I? You see people asking these questions that sort of allude to what they do. Naturally, and this is in defense of Leo, because Leo basically has 2 women after the first few episodes that he has, I don't want to say wrapped around his finger, but he's able to, he knows he's in the driver's seat. He's got 2 women that he's sort of vying for, and it gets very bizarre because, let's go to the ladies here. Hannah, on one end, kind of decides to scrap him because he's also into Brittany, and he likes both of them, but he pretty much is ready to go down, ready to do this thing with Brittany. As far as I can tell, that's what it looks like. And then he talks to Hannah and he finds out she's moved on. And again, I don't know if it's due to editing or whatnot, but he's ready to sell it to Hannah. I love you. And I guess he kind of becomes more outwardly open with Hannah. Where do we stand? What's going on? And then with Brittany, they kind of end up fighting nonstop because he's like, all right, we're just gonna have a good date. And then he's not able to give Brittany any of that emotional security. Now look, I'm torn here because Brittany's beautiful. She seems like a nice person. I don't really have too much to say about her. She does make it known that she doesn't really want to be a career woman. She's like, you know what? I kind of want to be home, do my thing, be the family, whatever matriarch type of deal, right? And by the way, hey, I think it's really powerful for someone to know what they want, because she might meet a guy who's got all of his things in order and says, you know what? I want that too. I want you to be able to take care of the kids and be the person who manages the home. I'll tell you right now, my wife and I, we didn't know this going into our relationship, which this is what's crazy about Love is Blind, is that the stakes are so high. They're trying to get engaged and do all these things without even seeing each other. It's just absolutely insane. My wife and I, we didn't have that planned when we started dating. We were like trying to figure it all out. But then we got into a position where my YouTube, my podcast became the breadwinner. You can go check out the podcast there, Rush Hour with Dave Neal. If you just scan that QR code, you can listen to all of the entertainment news out there. But the podcast, the YouTube, it was able to buy us a car and buy us a home and be able to make it so that my wife didn't have to go back to work, so that she can take her time being at home with me and doing the things that we want to do. But that's a choice we kind of came to throughout time. For people to start a relationship with that choice is kind of interesting. I have to be honest, if I met Brittany in my single days, I would be like, I don't know if I could ever get to a place where I could afford the sort of world you want. But as Leo has mentioned over and over, he's pretty wealthy as far as he's concerned. He brings up things that are interesting, because Love is Blind is, you take away how people look, but physical attraction is just an indicator of a person's ability to have longevity and abundance in this world. By that, I mean there are different physical attributes that can play into somebody. A taller man has a higher percentage of an earning potential than a shorter man. Why does that exist? I have no idea. It's probably some genetic caveman stuff where taller man sees higher in the brush, can see oncoming lions or whatever that alpha, whatever that thing is. But it does exist. I mean, more CEOs are tall. Now, more billionaires are short and bald, but that's a whole different, Napoleon-like issue. But the point being is that you might hear about Leo, know nothing about him, and go, well, he's got money, so that's security. Now, does that mean someone's a gold digger? Not at all, because you could say the same thing about Nick. You go, okay, the guy was a kicker. Odds are he's in good shape, because you have to have a strong leg. A lot of soccer players become kickers. It's very rare that you see the Janikowski, is that his name? The type of kicker who's just some guy out of the beer league that can hit the ball, kick the ball very far. So when you talk to people, you learn about their social standings without even seeing their face. Now, I don't mean to take the show Love is Blind too seriously. Like, clearly it's an experiment with a million flaws. It's got a million variable issue flaws, but the one constant that it has is you do not get to see the other person before you go into it. So let's go back to Leo, right? Let's go back to Leo here. We've got Leo. He's got two people. And this is where they stand. I'm going to watch the next few episodes tonight, and I'll get back to you. So hit the subscribe button or whatever. But Leo has a couple options. His options, of course, are Brittany and Hannah. Now, Hannah, she's, insecure in her own way. She's been going through changes. She, I think they mentioned this, and maybe they mentioned this afterwards. She lost something like 15 to 20 pounds since the pandemic. And then since the filming of this, she lost another 20 to 30 pounds. So she's kind of been going through her own transformation. And she mentions many times, I'm afraid you're not going to like me for how I look or whatever. But either way, I think what's interesting with Hannah, I don't know. I have a hard time vibing with her personality type, but again, we're watching it with our own bias because, maybe there's more to why I don't see her working, because it's not as if Brittany is a higher energy. And to be quite honest, Brittany's, pretty attractive, right? So I think Brittany not getting the reassurance from Leo, I think she mentioned emotional reassurance or whatever, by not getting that, you understand that she's probably her whole life been given reassurance, been given praise, been given affirmations that she's not getting right now because they're not seeing what she looks like. She even mentions like her eyes were her secret weapon. You don't get to do that now. With that said, I think she's got a great personality as well. I think Marissa's got a great personality. Now we have Marissa with Ramses, and also I think Nick. Was there a battle there with Nick and Ramses over Marissa? Do I have that right? Patreon? Let me know on the Patreon. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. They're watching behind the scenes. So let's go back to Nick. He's the kicker. And then we have Ramses. I believe they both sort of divulged accidentally to each other that their number one was Marissa. Do I have that right? Again, I apologize if I have this wrong. It's so hard because they'll show you who's working out episode 1, and by the time you get to episode 3, they've kind of moved it all over the place. So I can't possibly kind of get everybody right here from the cast list. And as we know, there's more people than this that are in the cast. They just end up cutting out full on storylines. So I don't even have Bowden's storyline right here, because who's Bowden? Was it Bowden with Marissa? Now I'm wondering who Bowden was with. Maybe someone in the comment section could tell me that. Meg says, I was so disappointed in Steven. I felt it gave blue-collar guys a bad reputation. And, okay, Steven is with Monica, right? So where's Monica here? There's Monica. And then Steven, of course, was the one who kind of admitted he cheated. No, that's not right. Is it? Yeah, it was Steven. Okay, so Steven admitted he cheated. And actually what I found funny in this Reddit section is someone said, Monica and Steven are the same brand of idiot. How are you letting a man call you a mutt, and how are you going to claim that small? Okay, yeah, these are weird comments. There was a thread about Steven mentioning that he cheated, and I found that it was interesting because, you want someone to be honest, but at the same time, I kind of feel like mentioning you cheated, unless it's something they're going to Google and find out, I can understand why you would leave that to yourself, because if you learned your lesson for why you did that, you don't want to sow any doubt in the person that you're with that you're a cheater. Because, people say, well, once a cheater, always a cheater. But it's like, if you've overcome that, it's like if you shoplifted when you were 11, knew it was wrong and you did it anyway, you don't want to be known as someone who steals. You're like, all right, I learned my lesson. I wouldn't do that again. What was I thinking, Now, I understand, obviously, with Steven, and when you talk about intimacy, when you're in a relationship, you do want to know people's blind spots. But also, as we've learned from this season, a lot of times people say, look, I'd rather not know. I don't know if it was Ramses who said I'd rather not know, but there was a few people that knew that who the other person was dating, and they said, you know what, I'd rather not know. Well, to me, the most interesting storyline is, I would say what looks to be the most long-lasting storyline, again, I don't know, would be our pal over here, Taylor. So Taylor is with Garrett. Garrett, let's go to their cast photo. So where's Garrett? Here's Garrett. He is the quantum physicist. Seems to have it all together. Kind of says, you know what? I'm not meeting girls doing my activities. I work with a lot of men. I go spearfishing alone. I'm not meeting the ladies. So I don't see any red flags from Garrett at this point in time. I think whatever energy he brought into becoming a quantum physicist, he's very well spoken, and he's, I would say tall, slightly above average on height. I think he said he was 6 foot tall. A type of good looking guy. Kind of looks like a Andy Roddick, the tennis player. Just good smile. Good-looking guy. What's there not to like? I haven't seen any red flags, but again, I'm also watching this with a 6-month-old. I'm trying to, move him around, and if I miss something, hey, I'm a little, I think they say when you have a baby, you get baby brain. I know I'm not trying to make excuses here, but it makes it very hard to watch Love is Blind and have a baby. So he is with Taylor. Taylor says a clean energy policy consultant. So we find out that they both have tattoos on their body, big nerd tattoos. She's great. If I could say anything, which is not negative, but anything that I found interesting about Taylor, it's that I think she uses humor to maybe mask how she's feeling. Like she'll go for jokes and teasing him when in sort of replacement of maybe having that serious moment. Totally fine. I'm a comic. I get it. I get, the sort of usage of humor in that situation. When she and Garrett met, they do these, they obviously get engaged, right? Are they the only couple engaged so far by the end of episode 3? I believe so. Chris said Bowden got denied by Marissa and didn't end up with anyone. Okay, so Marissa ended up denying Bowden, and because she was going back with had a few other guys. So yeah, Bowden didn't make it that far, but I think they talked about being each other's yellow flags or whatever. They were both in the military and didn't want to be with someone in the military. All right, so I must have had it wrong. It was between Ramses and Bowden. So I don't know why I had Nick in there, but it was between Ramses and Bowden. That was the big issue. See, that's why I like to get fact-checked right now. I'm trying to do this in a much more free-thinking way than writing and taking down notes, but clearly it's tough to get through the first few episodes until we have a little bit more of a solid connection between who's with who. So did I miss any engagements by the end of episode 3? I don't want to go ahead of it right now. All right, so... the conversation that happens when they're in that little portal thing, they get engaged, this being Garrett and Taylor, and then they make them kind of just sit there for a while. And we've seen in past seasons that look of regret when you get engaged to someone and you realize you just don't have that physical attraction. What's very interesting about them is that Taylor played the system right. She didn't want to share her mom's last name, I believe, because she didn't want to give away that she was Asian, and for whatever reason just didn't want to give away her ethnicity, which I think is part of it. It's great. Naturally, people talk differently. You might be able to hear, or at least think you hear, someone's ethnicity. Again, this might sound crazy, but we all know that some people will wear that more so on their sleeve than others. And then, so they have no idea going into it unless they're going to give away by their name. Like if you're, Deepti, for example, I think it would be fair to say, if you know anything about cultures, that she's probably Indian. Like that would, so if you said Deepti, you would know that. If you said Monica, you might not know that. Marissa, I have no idea what kind of, who you are. So in some of these cases, they have a hint going in, and in some they don't. But when it came to Garrett and, Taylor, I see a couple that has the best shot to make it work. That's just what I see right now. I see them being into each other physically, and I think they're both, like, she's beautiful, and I think he's good looking. You could make an argument that maybe, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Like, you just might not be into someone even if you're both technically the same level of attraction. But I think it's a very level playing field that, there's sapiosexuals, people that are attracted to intelligence, right? When you talk about, like I said before, height, when you talk about intelligence levels, when you talk about whether or not someone played D1 football, what you're talking about is, will these be indicators of success for this person moving forward? And that's why a lot of times people will choose a tall person, because they go, you know what? Tall people, they just get opportunities. That's why people will choose an attractive person, because a more attractive person might get more opportunities in the world that will lead to longer lasting financial success. Now, it could bite you in the butt, because you could be going after an F-boy, and because they have a lot of options means they might not be choosing you. So that can happen too. But I think what people are most attracted to is not always the physical, but what that represents, which is opportunity. I think people are attracted to opportunity. And I think they've done studies to say, look, even if you're bankrupt, if you are really social, take care of yourself, whatever, you have a good shot at meeting someone, because a lot of people want an investment opportunity. Now, in some cases, if someone's, saying, hey, I'm 33, I want to have a baby by the time I'm 35, I don't have time to wait for someone's acoustic guitar career to take off. I don't need to wait for this Jack Johnson looking banana pancakes guy to launch. I need someone who's ready right now. So it's not always potential, it's where you are in the moment. And when you look at Taylor and when you look at Garrett, I think they got the best shot. But again, we'll have to see how it all plays out. When I see someone like Hannah, I don't know who Leo's going to choose. If he did choose someone by the end of episode 3, that means I fell asleep. And I don't know if he chooses Brittany or Hannah. If he chooses Brittany, I don't know if Brittany would respect Leo. I don't know if Brittany would respect Leo, because I kind of feel as though Leo's insecure in that he needs to literally tell everybody that he's worth money. That's his claim to fame. It's like, you ever meet someone who's got like a famous uncle and they always have to let you know they have a famous uncle? That's their way of saying I'm relevant in society. We all do it in different ways. So I do it by talking about my hit podcast, The Rush Hour. So either way, I don't know how it ends, but that's where I stand right now. I know it's all over the place. That's the world I live in. If you enjoy my content in free form thinking, you can subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. If you want other entertainment and pop culture news, I do episodes twice a day. I do a morning rush hour and I do an afternoon rush hour. They're both 25 minutes long, which means you get all the content you need for your rush hour ride home or walking your dog or whatever the heck you're doing. You can scan the QR code or just type in The Rush Hour with Dave Neal anywhere you listen to podcasts, and you'll get that completely free of charge. I'd love to know your thoughts. If we get enough commentary here, we'll continue doing these recaps. I think it'll be good. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.